So let's start by taking a look at my passive skill tree, then my gear, and last my gems. If you have any questions about any of this, feel free to ask in the comments. So let's get started. I started by taking the physical damage and the attacks in the beginning, then I went for all of the attack speed. I went for the armor evasion life nodes here. I have Artifact Gladiator, Bravery, and Master Arena, which actually increases your weapon range as well, which is really important to a build like this. I have Destroyer, and if you want some extra damage, you can take this two-handed melee damage node here. I have Warlord's Reach as a Yule, and this one you get from a quest, so it's really easy to get. And it increases your weapon range, which increases the AoE of your Cyclone. I have Golden's Blood. I went down here to take Executioner and Wrecking Bell. Then I went for Cloak and Chain for some nice resistance and some armor and evasion. I have Iron Reflexes, but this is not a must-have. If you have no evasion gear on you whatsoever, you don't have to have this one. And this build can use both evasion and armor gear at the same time, so you can both evade and have armor at the same time. So it's not a must-have, but I like it. And I have Vitality Void. An important note here is this one, this Life and Mana Leech note is the only source of mana I actually need right now. But in early game where you don't have that high damage, it is a really good idea to take both this one and Spirit Void. And when you are comfortable with your Mana Leech, you can just drop both Spirit Void and this one and just have this one. But this one will sustain you when you have higher level damage. Moving on. I went this way here, I took Bloodletting, so I do 40% extra damage against bleeding enemies and increased damage with bleeding. Also give me some good chance to curse bleeding. I also have Blade of Kerning, increased my physical damage and my attacks, but also my life leech. I both have Hard Knocks and this one I can't pronounce, but these two are only necessary if you don't have enough intelligence on your gear. If you have enough intelligence and dexterity on your gear, just drop these two. You don't have to have this one if you have enough dexterity and intelligence on your gear. And I also took a Bloodless. Then I went to the Marauder area for some defensive. I have Warrior's Blood, this Life and Armor nodes here. I have Heart of the Warrior, Born to Fight, Butchery. I went for Barbarism. And went all the way up here to take Resolute Nick. So this build can't crit, but it can't miss either, so it have reliable damage against anything, because you can't miss. I also have another Yulesog here. This one have melee damage, some strength, intelligence and life, and that's actually what I'm gonna look for when it comes to Yules. That is life and physical damage, melee damage, increased attack speed, or a combination of that. Also have Razor's Edge, and I have Blade Master, and I also have Jaggernaut. And the last thing I did was to went all the way up here. I have now also here, you can see increased damage, increased global physical damage, increased damage with 200 weapon, increased attack speed. This one unfortunately don't have a life. I have Berserking, and then I have the whole big life wheel here, and I have Path to Warrior. And that's pretty much my passive skill tree. For my Ascendancy skill tree, I start by taking Endless Hunger, and after that Brutal Favor. After that I took Hedgeman and Bane of Legend. So that's pretty much all of my passive skill tree. If you have any questions about it, feel free to let me know. And before I forget to mention it, when it comes to the Bandit, I helped Oak to get the physical damage, life generation and physical damage protection. You can also kill all of them and take the 2 passive skill points. So let's take a look at my items. I start by talking about my weapon. I'm currently using a 6-linked Starforge. And this is pretty much the best weapon you can have for this build. It gives you life, it gives you a shit ton of physical damage, it has decent attack speed, your physical damage can shock and increases your AoE, but you do no elemental damage, so this is a pure physical build. But this weapon is very expensive. So if you can't afford this weapon, you can go for a rare sword instead, and if you're going for that, try to get a sword which have as high physical damage as you can afford and as high attack speed as you can get. For my helmet, just go with armor, life and resistance. And some useful enchantment which I don't have on this helmet, like increase the damage of your Cyclone, for example. For my amulet, I'm using Change Heart. This is not a must use, but it can give you a really good damage boost and increases your life leech. You can go for a rare amulet instead if you're prioritizing having more life. Or you can go for Dresser's Salute, you can see it on screen right now. If you're really prioritizing damage, that is the best choice. But it is a quite expensive amulet, so keep that in mind. For my rings, just go with rings which have life and resistance. And if you can, some damage there. Some steel rings would be the best choice, but they are quite expensive. For my armor, I'm using Calm's Heart. It's pretty much the best armor you can have for this build, but again, it's quite expensive. So an alternative to this one is just to have an Belly of the Beast, which is quite not that expensive actually. You don't need to be 6-linked if you have a 6-link weapon. You can go for a rare armor instead, and if you're doing that, try to get an armor which have as high armor value as possible and some life and resistance if you need some. For my boots, you want movement speed, the resistance you might need, and life. And also some good armor or armor evasion or evasion. For my gloves, I'm using these spike gloves, not a must use, but they give me some good damage increase. And the most important thing on your gloves is to get life and maybe the resistance if you need some. For my belt, I'm just using this highly defensive belt here with life and armor and resistance. If you want some more damage, you can use the Wretch. You can see it on screen right now, which is a very good belt for this build. But it is very expensive as well, and a belt like this I have right now, this rare one, will only cost you about 10 chaos. At least this one I bought right here did that. For my flask, I'm just using one bubbling, one anti-freeze flask. I'm using Rumi's Concoction for some chance to block and some good amount of armor. Not a must use. I really love my Quicksilver flask, so I have one as well. And I have a Basalt flask. If you want some more damage to be more offensive, you can use Lion's Roar instead. You can see it on screen right now, which will give you a good boost to your damage. And that's pretty much my gear. If you have any questions about my gear, feel free to ask me in the comments. So let's take a look at my skill gaps. I start with my main damage skill, which is Cyclone. And Cyclone are supported by faster attacks, maim support, brutality, damage on full life, and melee physical damage. An alternative to using damage on full life is to use chance to bleed instead. You can see it on screen. And if you only have a 5-link setup, just take away damage on full life. I'm using 2 auras or mana reserves, and that is vulnerability linked to blasphemy, which makes vulnerability into an aura, which increases your damage a lot and your bleed damage. I'm also using an Arctic armor for some protection, and it slows down enemy because you're leaving a shield ground. I'm using a movement skill, which is Leap Slam, linked to faster attacks, Fortify, and Blood Medic. So you can just leap around how much you want, you're using your life instead of mana. I'm using Blood Rage together with increased duration. I'm using one Astral Protector, usually against bosses, for some extra damage. And I'm using a Vengeance, and I usually have Vengeance supported by chance to bleed for some extra damage on Vengeance and some chance to crush the enemies to bleed for some extra damage. If you have any questions about my skill games, please let me know. I will now show this character in action, and I thank you all for watching, and I see you guys next time.